Welcome to the Do What Is Necessary live stream, coming to you live on a cold, snowy day here in Columbus, Ohio. Welcome to your Wednesday afternoon therapy. I will be your host today, Andrew Moon, Orange Nomad. I am so glad to have you on the show this week. This is, again, I think this is episode number 30 for us this year. This has definitely been an awesome ride so far this year. And this show that we have today to kind of put a bow on this year and to wrap up this year is going to be a phenomenal one. I'm so glad that you're tuning in today. So let me know in the comments that you can hear me okay. Give me a thumbs up. Also, let me know where you're tuning in from. We've got a global audience every week, and I'm excited to know where you're from and making sure everybody's good to go this year. So again, just get all the technical stuff out of the way. Make sure that you can hear me okay. The audio visual is good to go, and then we'll get started. So those of you who are joining us, who join us week in and week out, I want to thank you so much for all of the support across the entrepreneurial community across the globe this year for this show. So thank you to all of those who come back week after week and tune in and support us with comments. They share the stories that we tell. They share the content that we put out, and it's all about positive content. There's enough in the world today. All the negative stuff that we've had to endure this year. That was the purpose for this show. I started this show on April Fool's Day this year as a way of shining a light on the positive things that can come about in times of difficulty. And never have we experienced times of difficulty like this year. So I don't want to negate anything that you might be going through. But the fact that you're here on the show this week, I wanted to personally thank you. So for those of you just tuning in for the very first time, welcome. Again, I'm Andrew Moon. I am the Orange Nomad. I help hustling entrepreneurs become unstoppable, visionary, calm CEOs. That's what I do. This show is all about that. We serve the Fortune 5 million. People just like us, the small guys, the underdogs, those who have had to undergo some tremendous difficulties to get where we are in life today. And this show is about throwing away all of the hustle, the grind, the work your face off at the expense of your health, your family, all of the garbage content that's out there. This is about doing what is necessary. And that's the theme of this show, is the Do What Is Necessary live stream. Because what's necessary for you is maybe not necessary for me or the next person. So again, let me know in the comments that you can hear me okay. Let me just flip screens here and we'll pull up the comments, see what let's see here. Yep, we've got some tuning in from Austin, Texas. John, thank you. Welcome. I think this is your first time with us, John. If you happen to be watching this on the replay, welcome. Thank you so much. But put that in the comments too. Tag us in the comments. Let us know where you're watching this from on the replay. But again, going back to the theme of the show, is doing what is necessary. And I always look for rays of hope, rays of sunshine, no matter what we happen to be going through. And as entrepreneurs, we definitely endure some tough times. We get some scrapes, bumps, bruises, and it's all about, giving our blood, sweat, and tears at times for things that we believe in. But it's not about the theory of it. It is about doing. And over the course of this year, I've had a chance to meet a number of, just phenomenal people, people that give back, the people that contribute no matter what, the people who are all about building others up. And I happen to be introduced to this week's guest through Corey Munson. So thank you, Corey, who was on the show about a month or so ago. And he introduced me to our guest today. And she has an absolutely phenomenal story to tell. And I am so glad to have her on the show today to be able to tell that story and to be able to share with the world. Again, this is a global audience, to be able to share with the world her story, because I think we need the inspiration right now. We need the endurance needed to go through some tough times. And she is a shining example that it can be done. So All hands on deck. Please help me welcome Miss Teri Green to the show today. We'll give you the hand claps.
Oh. Well, thanks for having me, Andrew.
Yeah, so glad to have you. We've got a few. John said, let me pop up comments here, make sure those. John says this is his first time with us today. So, John, you've got a special one today, and meet a very unique, special person today with Teri. And again, it's a privilege to have you on the show. Really, to wrap up this year, I think this really solidifies probably one of the most inspiring stories that I've ever heard. And again, I'll let you tell it. I'll let you kind of take the floor from here. So the title of this show, and again, I got this from Teri, from Orphan to CIO, and this is the greatest hack of my life. So that's the theme. So kind of maybe start wherever you would like. But, and again, you and I, when we first jumped on the call, I love your story, so we'll let you take it from here.
Okay. Started in Chicago. I know when people hear Chicago, a lot of times it's always the negative aspect. Well, I did come from those the rough streets, but I ended up going to a school called Simeon. And when I say education is so important, and it can actually not only alter a kid from the beginning to stay, regardless of what the situation may be. I feel like that's what it did for me. Of course, Simeon has a lot of what we call professional basketball players like Derrick Rose, and that was one of the people that come off mine, or Ben Simmons. That a lot of people did come from Simeon that went to NBA, but not a lot of us have a technology story.
Yeah.
The thing for me is I was always positive, because I felt that was the only way I knew how to deal with what I was going through at the time. And I'll never forget, no one knew. So I was class clown because I like to see people laugh because I was crying at home. And the craziest thing, I remember when I emancipated, one of my friends called me and said, well, let's go to the show. And I said, I emancipate today. And she was like, from where? And I'm like, from DCFS. And she's like, well, you don't look like a child that went through DCFS. And it kind of made me stop for 1 second and say, what did that mean? And what did that really look like? We as people, we learn things are learned behavior, whether it's taught indirectly or directly, but ultimately it's relatively a choice. I feel like I made a choice. Either I can be a product of my environment, or I can be some production from my environment. I look just like my mom. And people used to always say, you're going to be just like her. And when I was younger, I used to say, no, but I am absolutely like her. All of the best qualities of her. And as I got older, I began to embrace that. I made sure I invoked the meditation in my daily routine, because, heal people, and broke people break people. And I refused to continue the cycle. It had to start with me as a choice. I even take that same methodology and invoke it in my team. So we do mindfulness together. We meditate together. Because just like a family that stays together, pray together, I feel the same thing can go inside of the workplace and ultimately create a greater union and respect for you all, which has worked for me. So I'm excited about that. And I've had to learn that as I evolved as a leader. So we're going to start with, I had a couple of trials. So we're going to start at a couple of them. We're going to go to a couple of the tracks. So my mom was an addict. She was addicted to bleach. She didn't drink it, right? She had extreme OCD. So back then in the 80s, they would take you away from somebody based on what they think they would do. Nowadays, they have to do it. So she never washed me with bleach, or like they assumed that she would do. But she did do some kind of extreme things. And then she ultimately became addicted to a substance, which kind of pried me from the arms of my mother. I realized as I was evolving and growing, I had to find myself, respect where I came from. For a long time, I was in denial. So people would say, what's your mom doing? I'm like, attorney, because she can look at you and lie. But I was lying, doing the same thing, right? Yeah. So I'm like, wait a minute, I'm just like my mother. No. So what kind of drove me to technology, I used the same application in life as I did to technology, and I found some kind of solace and solitude. And I felt like technology was more of my maternal substance that I needed at the time. It was there when I needed to listen. It didn't talk back, but it did listen. It was complicated, yet complex, yet simplified, like my relationship with my mother. But in the end, every process and every key component actually made the most beautiful sound. And it's what we're utilizing today as it continues to evolve and is more innovative. And that's what kind of gravitated me towards technology.
Yeah.
I was a freshman. Don't get me. I'm gonna get in trouble when I say this. I'm old now, so they can't do anything. Uh, so I did my internship at Trivium WGN when I was a freshman. I was at a school called Westwood College in Chicago, and I was a dual major. And I went to them and I said, I'm ready for my internship. And they said, well, you're a freshman. So I said, I'm gonna do an internship now. So I did something to my application that was just so unjustified. And I got the internship, but it was the first time Trivium took 2 interns versus 1. And the guy turned around and said, what school you go to? And I'm looking at him like, you the one that's off because I'm a freshman. So I'm not going to say anything. You should know more than me. But I realized then I had a gift, right? And with that gift, it continued to get greater and greater. By the time I was a sophomore in college, is an application, a kiosk you can pay your light bills and tickets in the city of Chicago. I was the only female on the project. And by the time I was a junior in college, I was an assistant chief engineer at 107.9 FM. And I realized really quickly, this was not a gift that I just picked up, but it was a gift that was given. And we have to be really, really cautious when God gives you things. At least that's what I believe. Because just like he give it to you, take it away. And I ultimately made a choice. I didn't just want to be the difference. I wanted to find a way to make a difference. And that's what I've been striving to do these last 16 years in my tenure. Now, yes, I am the CIO/CISO. It has been a hard road in my company. Out of 125 employees, I am the only female executive. I am the only Black executive, and I am the youngest. So you say that's a lot of everything, but to me, it's not enough.
Yeah.
So when people start talking about diversity and inclusion, that kind of, it really played on me, but I wanted to put my money where my mouth was. So I created a scholarship called The Change Begins Now. And I started it with my first $10,000 out of my own pocket to show people I was just as vested in my growth as other people grow. And that's what I just continue to do. I even created an internship program to bring 2 women in. And it's been phenomenal because this is my second run. And one of those interns, actually, she knew she can just call me and come back. And I think just to be able to know that they have someone that they can reach out to, because I didn't have that opportunity. I had to figure it out on my own. And God knows I don't even want to tell you some of the stories for some of the employees that I had to encounter over my life. I had this one guy, of course, he's no longer an employee, but he was like, I forgot you're a 16-year-old little girl. And I was like, I am so disrespected.
Us tech guys, man, I'm telling you so.
but then it ultimately, right, as you evolve and you grow, because I do the meditation, I realized that had nothing to do with me.
Yeah. Yep.
So we as people, sometimes we internalize things instead of taking a moment to step back and realize he's dealing with his own demons. I have a problem. I'm in my 50s, and now they bring this young girl in saying, hey, she's over you. How did she do it? You were able to make strides in which he didn't. And instead of it being celebratory, sometimes it's offensive. But that doesn't mean his intentions were, right? At least that's what I wanted to believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he did some...
It takes us some time, man. We all, tend to suffer from different things, different experiences, and sometimes we handle them okay. Sometimes they come back to haunt us later. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to welcome a repeat to the show, Jesse Roberts. He's based here in Columbus. Jesse and I actually met when I had my last tech business, and he did a lot for underprivileged kids in the school systems here. So I think it's a great segue. So I'm happy to have Jesse on the show this week because I knew he would tune into this subject. But yeah, he had a passion the same way that I do for helping the underdog, helping the underprivileged, and to be able to give back. That everything, doesn't have to be about business and money.
Right.
And that's really what I caught a snippet of an interview that you did with Corey Munson, and I had to reach out because for a couple reasons, and I'm so glad that I did. But one of the things that you were doing at the time, and I think you're still doing it if I'm not mistaken, tell us a little bit about the program that you set up when everything changed for everybody this year and we were all forced to work from home, and specifically those parents and grandparents who are now having to school their kids at home. And this is the part that I loved this part of your story. So tell us a little bit about what program that you set up to meet that challenge this year.
Okay, so I've been lucky, and I sit at a school here in St. Louis where actually Mike Brown went. He graduated from this school. And when you start thinking about changing different tides and what people actually expect, different expectations, I realized, yeah, the world was moving. Kids were moving online, but somehow we were neglecting grandparents and parents that were not ready to transition. So I opened up something at the actual high school where Mike Brown went, called the Genius Bar. Now, the whole thing about the Genius Bar is I wanted everybody to leave feeling like a genius. No question is dumb. But I felt like if we held hands together and we walked through it together, ultimately, the benefit would be in the kids' interest, not ours. But I kept saying, hey, we have to put PD in place for the parents. I know my grandmother is not tech savvy. She wouldn't have been prepared for it. And then you have some parents, regardless of what the circumstance may be, they just was not ready. Whether it was an educational thing, whether it was economical, I felt like as a school district, it was up to us to decide what we could do to ultimately have everybody shine, not just one segment.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, have there been any kind of positive things that have come about, from that? I'm sure that there are, but I mean, what would probably stand out to you?
I think the biggest thing here is how quickly I've been able to de-escalate parents. I think just knowing you listen to them, even in the midst of frustrations, instead of being judged, they feel like they can actually have somebody that can understand them and talk. They can talk to somebody. They don't have to yell. I'm a technology person, and if I can de-escalate you quick, something is wrong. But normally we're not that personable, but I am personable. So I think that's worked in my favor. And parents have been really, really receptive to it. Of course, you're not going to please everybody, but the small percentage of the people that's just frustrated in general and don't want the kids at home, I can't change that. But let's make it the best circumstance. And I think it's been really, really great. Another thing is we were able to get a grant to cover 600 hotspots for people that did not have internet at home, and that's worked in their benefit as well, just letting them know that we're here for them. So I have a parent that will actually get a certificate or award of appreciation due to their diligence in learning techniques to show them we're saying Merry Christmas. We're going to give them a $25 gift card for being a valuable parent, one that's vested in the student's growth, and we're vested in hers. So I think that's exciting. And I'm also going to pay for her to do Google class. Well, what they say, Google teaching certification for free.
That's awesome. And again, Corey pointed that out because I mean it's something that if you're not a parent or your kids are grown up out of the house that you really wouldn't think of. And most of us, like you mentioned, most of us in the tech industry are older and we may not have kids at home, so that wouldn't have been necessarily a problem that I would think to solve. So I mean I think that's awesome that you saw the need and that you stepped in. And that it wasn't, not everything has got to be motivated by money. I mean, that's not, It's not, the motivation. You're not going to make a lot of money off of these poor parents that are just trying to get by and do that for their kids. But yeah, I mean, that's part of the thing that we do as leaders of companies, leaders of our families, that we think about those things. That even in the times where yes, it is difficult. This year's put us all through the paces, beyond. Some of the limits that maybe we thought we had, but a lot of us are still here. So what do you see as, potentially the need, going into next year as, states, cities are going back into lockdown and things here in the States? Is there anything that you see on the radar where we as the tech industry, I interviewed a couple, gentlemen last week, the tech industry, some of the things that need to change in the tech industry for 2021. But do you see anything on the horizon where we as a tech community can get involved to help people solve problems?
To be honest, I really believe we need to get back to the basics. Like everybody is coming up with the latest gadgets, the newest tool, and it's just being able to educate people to get them to be cybersecurity aware, to be able to stop doing things. And we have to be able to kind of cybersecurity should be a culture, not just a policy or a procedure, but you have to be able to encompass it as a culture. I think that's one thing we need to do. And then when we start thinking about the remote stands, you're only it goes back to the people, right? People are not the weakest links; they're the greatest vector, and we have to be able to start looking at them like that and start turning negatives into positives really quickly. And as leaders, we have to be able to get back to the basics. It's just too many tools going on, and we're missing the minor things. And we're like, well, how did that happen? You didn't think about it. You was thinking about things going through the network, creating topologies.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's the truth, and that's kind of one of the things our last week that came about is the educational aspect of it. That I mean, yes, IT companies have been kind of the unsung heroes besides the doctors. Those on the front lines are frontline workers, but they've kept business running. They've kept families being educated, and that's one. Yeah, I totally agree with you there. That's an opportunity that we have as an industry to be able to educate. And what platforms do you see tend to resonate perhaps with parents or grandparents? Since, I think that's a regular educational platform. Is there one platform that you seem to see working better?
The one that we actually utilize is this Know Before because it seemed to be a little bit more user friendly. But there are other platforms that are just as robust. I think for the educational sector, just Know Before just has a really great component. I know they do have a business sector, but I don't really, I have 170 school districts in 4 states. So just being able to think about what can actually make a difference and can it make a difference across the board versus one segment. Of course, you may have to alter based on some locations, but Know Before has a really, really good platform. And it's easy to encompass the training. And I don't know if a lot of people know you can make it where people don't get the same questions. Have you ever seen people go through a training and sit by each other and say, I'm going to give you the answer where they can't give you the answer? Right. Because it's really based on they're using AI based on what the person response was prior to determine what the next question is.
Yeah, and that's kind of, again, we have all of those tools that we may take for granted that we educate businesses or hopefully educate businesses. But I think the stuff that's in the news this week with hacking and things, that it's pushing that need to the forefront, and that nobody is invulnerable to. When the bad guys want in, they're going to find a way. It's just a matter of when, not if. But yeah, I think we talked about. I think Corey and I talked about this when I had him on the show. Is just different innovative ideas that we can do from an educational is helping a parent be able to set up their router properly. It's simple things that we just kind of blow by because they're elementary from a tech perspective. But we can get it.
We have to. Go ahead. We have to think about it in 3 ways. A lot of times, have you ever seen people like, well, I gave a tutorial, but we know there are 3 types of learners. You have kinetic, you have visual, and you have auditory. So what I try to do is I roll out from a visual. I came out with a computer series love to make it kind of fun and interactive where people want to captivate and watch it. But at the same time, the people that's not going to watch it, they'll hear it. And then I also encompass it with a tutorial. You push it as many ways as possible. I even do digital flyers because not everybody's going to look at their email. So you have to be able to kind of keep something and make sure it's consistent, like a consistent message, not bombarding, but it has to be consistent.
Yeah, I like that. So yeah, I'll pop up a comment from Jesse. He said, kudos to you. I knew Jesse would love your story. He's presently working with clients here to gain employment, people who are out of work because of COVID here. So he's going to reach out to you. This is what I encourage, the most. That's why I love, each week I do a segment putting an orange spotlight on a company or a person or a product, that's why I love, we're doing these interview shows, having a person like you be our orange spotlight for the week. Anything else? I guess going back to technology, kind of your early roots in that. What do you what do you like most, I guess, about the technology industry, and what would be your recommendation to younger ones who are coming up through school as to things that might get them interested? Because I think that's a whole generation that we need to educate right now. So
it is, my main thing is I go by a thing. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you.
yeah,
So ultimately, no one wants to stay stagnant. You always want to evolve and grow. And I say, if you like it, go for it. I do know a lot of women that said, well, I dropped out of computer science. That was hard, right? But if it doesn't challenge you, it's not going to change you. Don't be afraid of the challenge. Your biggest opponent is you. So in the mirror, I make sure I meet myself every morning before I walk out, because I would hate to actually come in here with a nasty attitude and my team have to meet the worst of me. So if I'm going to meet the worst of me, I make sure the introduction is with myself. So I'll stop in the mirror, introduce myself to myself. And sometimes I got to check myself because I'm still a human and I'm flawed. And then I might have to do a little extra meditation because I got to calm myself down. But I just need more coffee. But I think the way ultimately, the way you go into a situation, a positive outcome will produce a positive mindset produces a positive outcome. And I try to kind of walk in that. And I tell women all the time, do it. Yeah. Don't second guess it. If it's something you dream about, you use all the time, and you can see yourself, we need you. Come to the field. Women are so strategic. It's mind blowing. And I believe it's a learned behavior, right? So as growing up, how many times did you see your mom doing multitasking? She was cleaning, she was cooking, she was taking care of kids. That's multitasking. So but you've groomed women to kind of do this. So allow their strategy to actually work to help us as a whole, because it takes all of us, not just a few of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, we talked about that on last week's show. It's just, it's been that way for so long, where you kind of feel like you have to hide things because you don't want anybody to know the secret sauce of what your company is. But there really isn't any secret sauce as to what we do IT wise. It is all what you touched on. It is the delivery, the personal aspect of it, the educational aspect of it, and respecting the people. And I think that's a thing that we need to be able to teach our younger ones right now, is those interpersonal skills. And yeah, that's the fear that I have right now with everybody being at home for so long. That I'm an introvert by nature, so it's like first part of this, I'm like, all right, this works for me, I'm like, but at some point, we all crave that human interaction and being able to do. So what do you think we can do as an IT industry to do things differently than we've done before, with getting the younger generation amped about coming into the tech sector?
To be honest, I think we do more things to meet them where they are, and not what we desire them to be. I think will be better. So I'm a gamer, right? But how many computer games like PlayStation, I think they have a job where you can actually go and you can play the game until you find out what code is broken. But how many times is that promoted? You got kids that love to sit on video games. That would be a way into the technology sector, because now they have to evaluate the code. I'm more inclined to evaluate the code if I love the PlayStation system, because I think I'm going to get a free one. It's always it's some benefit to it, but just being able to kind of, if we can get those companies that have those type of things to kind of think about, hey, let's start employing kids that's in high school or kids that's in their undergraduate to kind of do these type of things and kind of give them a bridge until their actual career. I think we'll be greater at it, because the younger generation stays on the game systems and the phones more than everybody. But I don't hear about phone companies adopting them as interns to be able to kind of figure out what graphical features what they need. And then you can make it more interactive by forcing them to talk where they're learning the personable side.
Right. No, I love that idea. So I'll put that on my to-do list for 2021. I'm going to see if we can find somebody from one of the gaming companies and put them on here and talk about that. But it's just, thinking differently. And that's why I started this show back in April, because I've gone through multiple, downturns in economy. I went through the dot-com bust. I went through 9/11, went through 2001, went through 2008. I was running companies, during those times. And I knew back from 2008 what I went through there. I was, 4 or 5 years into a new company that I was looking for a peer group. I was looking for a place to be a part of, to do better things than I would do by myself.
Right.
And that's why I started this show, because I knew that was going to be a need. And each week that goes by, meeting folks like you, where you those innovative ideas that we can't do things the way that we've always done them. And I think next year is going to have basically we're going to see an explosion of the innovative ideas, the things that we're thinking about right now. Like you said, just do it. Just get out, put it to work. It doesn't have to be perfect, but those are things that we can bond together as a business community, as a tech community, to be able to do. So John said high five to you for that too, talking about being able to educate and get the interpersonal skills for our younger generation. But yeah, it's anything that you see, in the future where it might be something that we can get that younger generation more involved besides, gaming. I like that concept of that idea. We'll figure out how we get that education out there. So
so there's a great program called YZ that's actually created by Steve Wozniak. I believe it was his name was. He was one of the engineers at Apple when they first evolved, and it's phenomenal. So we actually just put it into our high school here. And the craziest thing is, because we were thinking futuristic, right? Amazon has now, they're going to start doing deliveries with drones. Yeah. Kids don't have to go get jobs at McDonald's. When we're putting them through the program where they'll build the drone from scratch. Then they purposely have to crash it and repair it. You can put them in place to get drone certification. So when those jobs come aboard, they can actually apply to be the people to go repair the drones when they crash. So just putting them in those different positions.
I love that. See, I didn't know anything about that program. See, that's why we need to get. And again, it was just like we get so tied up in trying to keep our businesses running and just, all the business aspects that we forget about the people aspect. And I love that idea. I'm going to look into that because I think it was like 3 weeks ago. There was a drone company that's using drones to plant trees. And I had the same thing. We all get excited because it can, drop a box on our front porch, but planting trees is much more about.
Wait, don't drop it. But the craziest thing, everything that is created has to break.
Right.
And when it breaks, it has to be a new set of talent that's able to address it. So we have to think, not all kids are going to college, but if you can put them in a position where they're still able to succeed, especially coming from communities such as mine, where success, because to me, failure is not trying. So I'll try anything that comes in my head, as long as, of course, I evaluate it. I'm not that big of a risk taker. I test everything out probably 3 or 2 times. And when I do it, people are like, that's amazing. But they think you just came up with it, but I test everything. Like I got 13 systems at home. I'm testing it at home before I'm talking about
it. And again, I'm with you. I have the same opinion about failure. Failure only comes about when I didn't learn anything from it.
Right.
We all mess up. We all, not everything is a home run winner. But if we didn't learn anything from it, that's the ultimate failure about that. So if you have questions for Teri, if you're watching the show, please put those in the comments. I know I want to be respectful of your time too, Teri. I appreciate you coming on and chatting with us today. I would say at this point in your career, you did some really cool things too. Tell us a little bit about your singing career. That's another one of those little known facts. I was like, I wrote that down. So,
I was at a point in my life where I was Grammy nominated in 2014, but I was a positive hip hop artist. So I actually infused spoken word with poetry over acoustic guitar. I lost to people like Nicki Minaj, but I would not give up technology. The craziest thing was I was my own producer, engineer, and artist, and I wrote my own music. And I had only been doing it for 5 years, and it just took off. So that led me to believe my gift was greater than me, because it seemed like anything I touch actually goes to gold, and I have to give all glory to God, because I can't see that just happening from my hands so quickly, but it did. So I ended up touring in Jamaica. Well, I toured overseas. I did a 10-city tour in England. I ended up on a PBS show where a song called Song Stage. I came in number 4 out of 600. And then I was on a show with Justin Timberlake called Take the Stage. And I was number 6 out of 6,000 or something like that. But each time it was really funny, right? I realized it was still hard for me to cross over to my own kind. Yeah. So my fan base was 70% Caucasian. And it was more because I did positive music.
Yeah.
So that let me know then something has to change, and it has to change with us, whether we do it one word at a time. But why is it that when you craft words that actually have dedicated meaning, we're not susceptible of listening to it? So it made me go back into my own communities and try to figure out what was the core of that. And I got with a company called Poet, People of Extraordinary Talent in Chicago. And we did a whole bunch of things like gave back to the community. We fed the homeless and different things like that because we realized our presence was greater than us and we just had to give back.
Yeah. I love that. So when you're telling me that, I'm writing that down. I talked to my wife after we talked for the first time. I'm like, yeah, she toured with Justin Timberlake, man. She's... I'm like, yeah.
She's okay.
I was like, that was the most amazing, first call interview that I've ever done. I'm like, I got to get her on the show. But yeah, it's just, most of us that are in the tech industry lead a pretty boring life. That's why that just, stood out to me. Just, again, all of the creativity that you use to be able to live a fulfilled life. And it's about doing what was necessary for you at any given time. So, again, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. If you had any parting words for anybody who might be watching this today or afterwards, given what we've gone through this year, what would your message? What is your message for 2021? What would your advice be to people?
I understand that we're going through a trying time, but that's it. The key word is trying. I need you to keep trying because faith succeeds anything. And like I said, faith without works is dead. He's never going to put more on us than we can bear. And the hardest part is actually getting past it, right? At least that's what we would think. But that's not necessarily true. The hardest part is the thought. If you can just change your state of mind and you can actually change your outcome. Like literally, I just battled COVID myself. I was battling for a month. And I was not in a great place, but I'm here with you today. So I say, it's something for everybody. We're going through something at this time, but the people need us and they need our strength even more because leaders are people that influence others.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do at this point.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, it starts with us, and there's so much that's out there that we can't change. And so I love that message going forward. I mean, things aren't going to, magically get better after the calendar rolls to January 1st.
Right.
I mean, we're not anywhere near out of this, but thanks again, Teri, so much for being on the show today. I appreciate getting to know you. I see us doing some further collaborations down the road too. Because
I'm coming out with a book. Moon.
So I'll have you back on as soon as you launch that book. Yeah. We will help you hype that book like nobody's business. But again, thank you, for the inspiration. Thank you for, challenging us as business owners, as professionals, as people, as parents, to be able to think about things differently. And that's what I love. We all have challenges. We all have things that, take a gut punch you in the nose at times, but it's the decision to get back up. And that's what I appreciate from everything that you've been through, everything that I've learned from you so far this year. So, John said, yep, Death of a Poet is dope. So
thank you. And that's me on the guitar, John. That's me on the guitar.
I was going to play that, but I already got in a fight with Facebook about 3 weeks ago because I played like a 30-second clip on the show of Tommy Boy, and Time Warner took our video down.
Well,
and so anyway.
Well, I'm not signed, so you probably would have been okay.
Yeah, it's like DMCA stuff is just getting crazy. I'm like, look, it's yeah. Anyway, I digress. So a lot of people are chiming in for your story. Raina from New Orleans, she said, thank you. And again, this is just the inspiration that you bring to the show, or something. Angela joining us today, you're inspiring. So I think you two know each other well. So Yeah. So again, I hope to collaborate on some of the. I like those ideas of things that we can do as a tech community, and again, it's about educating our tech community first. I learned several new things today from you that I think are open opportunities. We all have, the ability to have platforms to be able to tell the world our story, and that's live video. I think will just explode coming up in 2021, and we as the tech industry have the chance to lead that. I mean,
Right.
and level up to do good things. So again, thank you so much, and I appreciate everything that you do. I look forward to collaborating with you. And again, when's your book? When do you think you'll have your book out?
So I'm actually shooting it for fall of 2021,
All
and
right,
it is called The Hack of My Life. So
sweet. That's what I said. As soon as that comes out, you let me know. Okay.
gotcha.
All right. Thanks, Teri, for being on the show. So everybody, give her a thumbs up. Thank you so much. And thank you to those who are still tuned in. That was one of for me, this is the last show that we're going to be doing for 2021 because I'm going to be doing what is necessary for me the next couple of weeks and getting a little bit of rest, spend time with my family, giving our team some extra time to regroup because this year is one like no other, and we need to do all that we can to support each other. So I love having stories like that. So if you know of other people that are like Teri, that are go-givers, that are absolutely good to the core. And if they're tech people, great, but they don't have to be. We bonded over a lot of things when Teri and I first talked, and that's really what inspired me is the things that she does. So it's not about talking. This show is 100% about doing. So John's got that queued up, so I'll have to pass that along to Teri too. So I downloaded that after the first song first interview that we did as well. Teri. So, yeah, kudos to you. I love all genres of music. I actually have this year. I hated country music to this year, but I've actually embraced that. Thanks to my son. But yeah, this has definitely been a labor of love for me to do this show every week, and I think this is episode number 30 for us this year. I've learned a lot. I've met a lot of great people. And despite, again, everything that we see in the world today, we have a choice to be able to choose the positive and do the positive. And that is what this show is 100% dedicated to being about, is doing what is absolutely necessary for you. So, but as I'm going to close out this show and wrap 2021, so thank you again for sharing your earbuds, sharing your screens with me so much this year. I look forward to doing some incredible things with you in 2021. And being able to shed the light and shine on other people's message of things that are good, things that are positive, things that we can have hope, that we can move forward. So thank you, Raina, for joining us. I appreciate, again, another person that I met this year. I've met so many people through this show and being able to speak and share our message of hope and positivity to people. So thank you again, and as again, embracing the words of my Tim McGraw, always stay humble and kind, and for me, always do what is necessary. I'll see you in the new year. Take care.